I see a bad moon rising. I see trouble on the way.
Hey Moon Babes!
Hi you guys!
I'm Bree.
I'm Jackie.
And this is our little guest of honor. If you can see something moving down here, this is Frankie. She's one of my dogs and she's decided to make a cameo on this video. She's a chunky monkey bulldog, so...
She's a thick girl.
Yeah. The dog is not even, like, surprised by how I'm dressed right now. I'm itchy, but I can't touch my face because of the makeup. When this video posts, it will be, what did you say? 1 second before Halloween.
It'll be like a minute before Halloween.
Friday night, like just before Halloween hits.
Yeah.
And if you haven't paid attention, I'm sure a lot of you guys have, Halloween this year is falling on a Saturday night, and it's falling on a full moon, and I think it's the second full moon in the month, which is like,
yes,
it is the coolest, craziest alignment of stuff that's happening, so I'm so excited.
Yeah,
and I've just been walking around like this for a month, okay? So
she does. It's been really weird.
It's time.
It's been super strange. Now it makes sense.
This is how I live. It's all about the headdresses and horns over here. We have a special wine today. It's one of my favorites. It's perfect for the occasion. It's Curious Beasts wine.
So, okay, we were thinking, we obviously are very much in the spirit of Halloween, but we thought it would be fun to talk about not spooky, well spooky, yeah, but ghostly or supernatural type things,
paranormal experiences that we've had and our thoughts on the paranormal.
Yeah, like where that fits within our world.
This is like my favorite subject ever to talk about. It's interesting because people will always say like, oh, well, none of that stuff is proven. Like, oh, well, there's nothing out there. Like, it's just your imagination. Science has never said anything about that, so it must not be true. And it's always really interesting because it's like, there's all these things that science just hasn't got to yet. Like, like who's to say that that doesn't actually exist and things don't actually happen? Nobody has really put in the effort in the scientific community to prove that these things do or do not exist. Well, or if they don't have the ability to see that they exist, they just assume no, they don't.
Right.
We haven't thought, like, look at science over the last thousands of years, right? Like, there were things that nobody thought existed, right, that as soon as we were able to prove them, then we knew, right? And we just accepted that as fact. But there's a lot of stuff out there that just we haven't got to yet. But who's to say it's not there?
Well, I feel like the people who experiment with it are people who maybe have a bigger insight into it, and somebody who says, well, you can't prove it scientifically, I would almost guarantee you has not had any experience with something like that, because I feel like when you have experienced something like that, you don't care about science, you don't care about anything, you just know. You know something happened.
Even if you care about science and something happens and you go through every like situation in your head to prove or disprove what happened, I think for people who really experience something, especially if it's something that's scary, right, then they're just like, forget science. I don't know what happened, but something happened.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
there's something inside of you that is just like, I can't absolutely explain this, but it wasn't, like, this was not the normal real world that we're physically in. Like, this was something else. Sure. Something else. So, I mean, I always think, so you're talking about like science proving it. We have a range of things we can experience, like frequencies, vibrations, energy, things we can see, the things in this like physical reality that we can touch. But I think it's so cool. I saw this video that was kind of exploring that maybe some of those things are frequencies that merge closer to what we can experience. And it's just they're existing on a different frequency. And so in some of those places or people who maybe have a wider range, that then they can have these experiences or these entities can...
That's a good word.
Exist closer to our reality. Yeah. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, for sure. So when I think about it, especially if you're looking at it from a scientific perspective, I like to use X-rays as a way to observe stuff like this, right? So X-rays, you know, if you've ever broken a bone, right, or you have to go to the doctor, you have to get an X-ray for some reason. You can't see X-rays, but they have a physical effect on your body. Like there's a physiological effect that goes into it, which is why they cover you with the thing to protect your body, because they can cause a lot of problems.
And interference with your body.
Exactly,
systems,
right.
yeah.
They can cause cancer, right? So even though we don't see them and we don't we don't see or we don't perceive them, right? Like
Yeah.
in any way, we don't feel them. They do affect us, right? Because they're on a different plane than we're living. It's not a different plane than we're living on, but a different plane than we can see or feel or interact with.
Right.
But we have learned that they're there, and we've proven that they're there, and then we've harnessed them to be able to use them for imaging purposes in the medical field, right?
Right.
So who's to say how many planes there are? Like we have no idea. But just because we can't see it or feel it doesn't mean that it's not real,
Right.
and interacting with our matter. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. With like
really
our
confusing.
internal stuff, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would hazard to say that somebody who is just very flippantly like, I don't believe in that stuff, I would love to see them sat down in a place that, I don't know if you'd call it like, I always say like the veil, where the veil is thin. There are places where
Halloween.
that happens. There are places, and I would love to see them experience something in some of those places and still have that same point of view.
I think they don't allow themselves to experience it, because if anything happens, so like my brother, I'm going to use my brother as an example. He is as like practical as they come. Like he's never going to say, yes, I think there's paranormal stuff. He's like logic, and like you would think he was a Capricorn. He's not, but you would think he's a Capricorn. And I feel like if anything were to happen to him, like when I try to explain things that happen to me to him, he always is like, well, it had to be this. Like he right away reaches for a practical, scientific, logical explanation for it.
Right.
So it's almost like they don't allow themselves to even think that there's a possibility of something else.
Right.
So they've already reasoned that it's something.
It has to be this
logical
thing. Even if the experience was like, no, that's absolutely not what it was.
Or maybe, spiritual, you use the word entities, don't affect them the same way because they're not as open. Like if you were an entity and you were trying to communicate some sort of message or reach somebody, why would you go to somebody who clearly doesn't believe in you?
I would agree with that. I
don't know. Do entities have a choice in who they go to? I mean, obviously none of us know, but
I mean, I hadn't had any kind of experience with anything like that, and it was something, I liked toying with, and that's a cool, like, fun, scary, kind of spooky idea, and I like it. But as you know, like 2 years ago, I moved into a new house.
You guys, listen to this.
And from the beginning, I'm just walking into this new house I had just purchased. I'm so excited. And from the first time I was moving like food over into the other fridge, there was something like me just I'm happy, I'm in my new house. I had all these bags, and there was something that just, it was like this, and I was like terrified, scared. I dropped everything
Just
and like
a
left the
feeling.
house. Yeah.
Just a feeling.
I'd never had that before. And so since then, there's been some absolutely crazy stuff that has happened. I think we've reached like an equilibrium where we kind of coexist, but don't acknowledge so much some of the things that happen in the house. But you've been
there's
there.
some weird things that happen there. So I will just say I helped you move in, right? And when we were first starting to walk around, there were like some circles in the backyard of crystals, right? And when we were like, oh, this is great, this is meant to be like a witch
so
lived here,
eclectic.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Wonderful.
And then there was this weird closet in the master bedroom. Is it freaking you out if I talk about it?
No,
Or is
no,
it
no.
okay? There was a weird closet.
We just
in
don't
the
talk
master
about it in the
bedroom.
house.
It
That's a
was
rule.
not a real closet. Like, they have their real closet. It was an extra closet that was created.
Yeah.
And it was this long hallway that was just, it was lit, but like no airflow, no windows. Like, it was almost like a secret kind of dungeony room. And when I opened the door to look in there, I got that feeling too. And I was just like, ooh. Like,
or you're looking at the door and there's something that's like, I don't want to open it.
Yes. Like, ooh, God, I'm getting this weird feeling.
Yes.
Like,
what
it
were
just
we saying?
felt
It's
like,
where you're hoping it's like a sex dungeon. Like you're wanting to see grommets on the floor. Like, oh my gosh,
please let this be the red room,
Please.
right? No, like, but it didn't give me vibes like that. It gave me creepy vibes, like something you see out of a horror movie. I don't know, was someone chained up in there? I don't know, right? And like chained up, but not in the sexy way,
right? Not in a fun way.
And then there was in the garage. When you were moving boxes and stuff like that, because she left some stuff behind.
Yeah.
The word help was written big on the garage floor.
On the garage floor. On the garage floor.
Yes.
And there was even more of a room built out.
Yes.
That had all been painted black. You can see from like the trim.
Oh, it's creepy.
And they had just kind of slapped some paint back over it. So like
It
all
was
of her
weird.
stuff had been
I
in
got
there.
that weird, you know that feeling in your hands where you just like, oh.
We ended up demolishing that closet.
Yep. They did. They turned it into a part of their garage and gym.
Now the garage.
Repainted it. Killed all those little walls that were in there.
A little ceremony.
Yep. And I remember you being like, oh my God, look, this is all the stuff I got at the crystal store.
Oh yeah, I sent you that picture.
Try to fix it and to try to bring some positivity into that space.
Yeah.
And do you feel like it has calmed down?
Yes, there are times where I had brought some like new, because you know we both love incense and crystals and some things don't react well in the house, and so they have to be thrown out. We have to be careful what we get at the thrift store as well.
Oh, that's because thrift store stuff has energy on it from the person before, so regardless, you want to sage it.
Right.
But
I mean, we just got that house. We can't be selling it now, so you know, you stay in your
props
lane.
to you guys. Props to you guys.
It's one of those things, though. I don't even mind coexisting in a house where weird stuff happens, but like back the frick off and stop trying to scare everybody. Like that's when I'm like, you've crossed a line. Like you need to go back to being your ethereal self and knocking stuff off of shelves. Like do not appear to me or anyone in my family. Like you're cool, we're cool, everything's good, but don't
Jackie's
appear.
not defensive at all. This is how she's coping. I'm a little bit worried.
She's like, oh no, don't say it in the house.
Oh my God.
I wouldn't say it in the house.
So it's interesting because spirits, I feel like, and if you don't believe in spirits, obviously you can clearly leave this conversation. Like, I just realized we're talking about if spirits do or do not exist, and we are so heavy in the fact that spirits do exist, and that's all that we're gonna freaking talk about.
You can feel free to click off of this if you're still watching.
If you're one of those practical people, I don't know why you're watching us anyways when we're dressed like this.
You're on the wrong video. This is...
Anyways.
We're so sorry.
Anyways. What was I saying?
Oh, what were you saying?
What was I saying, Jackie?
We're talking about if these spirits...
Oh, yeah. So, obviously we believe that spirits or entities or something beyond us exists, right, in the paranormal world. They always seem to attach themselves to a home, which is interesting. Have you ever seen Insidious? I think it's Insidious.
Yes.
Where they go into is it the further or the other, or I think it's the further.
It's been a while since I've watched it.
But it's basically like the same layout of the world and the same houses and everything, and then the spirits are living in the same houses.
On a different frequency.
On a
What did I
different
say?
frequency, right.
What?
But it's interesting that it's like they attach themselves to a physical place.
Yeah.
Right? Because isn't it always in houses? Like,
Yes.
I lived in a house in California that was haunted.
I was going to say, you've had some...
Yes. Oh my...
Like, I don't think we're going to get into it a whole lot, but...
It would make this video
chills,
super long, but yes, I have definitely lived somewhere that was haunted, and it had a major effect on me and the other person living there. Like, it was just insane to think about. But it's just interesting, like how, I don't know.
Yeah.
How do we make a discovery to show that something beyond us exists? Like, can you imagine if science could actually prove that something else was out there? If we ever developed that type of technology?
If there was a way to measure it. Because I do think if we are energy and it's just a different level of energy. But then again, if you can't actually see it, if like so much so
but
as humans, if you can't see it, yes, but then you could explain it away. Like even if they're like, we're picking up this frequency, or I always think of like the Ghostbuster box or whatever that thing is. Like, you know, the thing that like gets Slimer. Here, validate what I'm saying. So like the thing.
I'm sorry, I was thinking, but you're validated, Jackie.
The thing that beeps whenever there's a ghost.
Yes, I know. What do you call that? No, a stenographer's a court thing. What do you call it?
I'm not even going to give it a stab now. You said stenographer. We're going to just...
Oh my gosh. They have things that show that there's energies around.
But they can't show what it is. So everybody's like, that's just electrical stuff from that tower.
But don't you think back in the day, like thousands of years ago, like no one knew what technology was. And if someone brought up the fact that technology might exist, they're like, what is this kooky, like... devil worship shit that you're talking about.
That's true, yeah.
Right? Like if we as a human race don't know,
right,
then of course we're going to doubt it.
Yeah, it's
so
something
who's
you don't
going
know.
to take that step to discover and then bring it in so that we know?
So I know that you have certain sensitivities to things that are not quite explainable. I wish I had more, but like, explain that thing that happens when you're tired. Like, you have no idea.
I don't know if that's necessarily paranormal or, well, I guess how do you define what's paranormal and what's not? It's not normal for most people to have psychic abilities, I would say. Like, people would look at that as pseudoscience, right? But I definitely am highly connected to things that are happening or things that will happen. And my powers come out when I'm tired. Like, if I haven't slept, I should probably go play the lottery. And I'm not kidding. I think, so for a long time, I would say that this stuff happens to me. And I feel like everybody looks at me like, oh, what? Like, that's, okay, Brie.
Sure, Brie.
But now that people have got to know me and they actually see what happens or they see that I might, like, predict something. God, this sounds so crazy. I'm sorry. This sounds crazy.
I've seen it before. It's
right.
So it's crazy.
Close friends that I've had now for a very long time that have seen these things happen are here to back me up because right. That's almost like scientific method type stuff, right? Where you show it to everybody, and I have all these witnesses,
and there's no way. I think
there's no way. Like, things happen that I predict, especially if I'm tired. Like I said, I don't know why, but that's weird.
It is when you're tired. I think it's that it almost like your conscious brain is like blanketing your subconscious whenever you're fully rested and going about your day, and then when you're tired it's almost like you don't even have control over it, so it just kind of takes over.
Yeah, you're right.
Without your control.
My subconscious has a closer
vibe
with other stuff that's happening.
I think that
it's definitely a more primitive, more in tune vibe to stuff that's happening. But there's so many things that I'm telling you, if I didn't have witnesses, no one would believe me. I have some sort of weird power. I will say I cannot control it. It just comes to me. I have tried to control it. I've tried to harness it, and there's just certain days where I am weird and tingly and just like in the ether. I don't know. And I just wake up and I'm like, this is going to happen.
Ether.
And if you're watching this as soon as it posts, it's about to be Halloween. And it's about to be like a Halloween to remember. I know it's COVID world, but enjoy it anyways.
Yes, we hope that you're enjoying it in your own way with your family or by yourself, that you are making the most of it. And
I feel like there's going to be some power this Halloween. Like I really do. Just because the way everything is lining up. So
yeah, it's made me a little scared to like be in our house on Halloween, but that's fine.
Oh, I love it.
It's totally
Can
good.
I come over?
I know. We'll set up like No, we're not setting up a set. We're not setting anything up.
Jackie's like, I don't. Your power is not allowed in my house on Halloween night.
We're not combining those.
Frankie and I will do something ourselves.
But
yeah, let us know what you think. Like and subscribe down below.
Yes.
And until next time, bye, Moonbabes.
Bye, Moonbabes.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Don't go around tonight. It's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise.